Good evening, everyone. So, the Liberals are doing what Liberals always do, and they're going to investigate themselves completely transparently behind closed doors. Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. And, well, it doesn't come as any surprise, really. I wasn't expecting anything else to happen. I didn't think that the majority Liberals were going to vote on their committee to bring in Miss Wilson-Raybould or anybody else and grill them in camera or otherwise. I wasn't expecting that. I was kind of hopeful, like a little bit, like maybe for a quick second, the backbenchers and the other people in the Liberal cabinet saw that the Emperor was wearing no clothes. Maybe, but apparently not. They're closing ranks. And it looks like we're going to ride this out. They're going to put their fingers in their ears and they're going to tell Miss Wilson-Raybould, that she cannot violate confidentiality and the privilege between client and lawyer. So that's what I think is going to happen. And here's Nathan Cullen after the meeting today when they voted to shut them down. There's a lot to this. This is a 30-minute video. I've only watched probably the first 10 minutes. Got lots to do. Sorry. I'm going to watch the rest of it later. But I wanted to show you the first 3 minutes, like all of the first 3 minutes. So I know that's a lot. That's more than I usually show, but I think it's important. And so here we go. We're going to watch it. And we're going to look at some other stuff too, because there's lots happening today. Here we go.
I'd like to say I was shocked, but I'm not. The lack of the government's ability to be forward and transparent with Canadians when it comes to this fair has been consistent. I am disappointed, though. I thought we had a motion on the table that would allow us to hear from the principal people involved in this entire affair, and the Liberals voted against it while claiming that they weren't somehow. It's disappointing for Canadians who are trying to understand what's happened here. I'll just end on this, that this goes to the very heart of how our democracy functions and how our courts must remain independent from the pressure of people that may inhabit the Prime Minister's office at any given time. Oui. Je ne sais pas, c'est tellement difficile. On va voir qu'est-ce qu'on va passer la prochaine semaine.
I don't know. We don't know exactly what's going to happen over the next week. It's going to be in camera. It's not public. So it's hard to understand what the Liberals want. What Ms. Wilson-Raybould wants to say to everyone. The Prime Minister, he has the privilege to cancel out what the Minister wants to say. So Mr. Rankin will have to continue the work now.
Well, what I watched here today was incredibly disappointing, that we had an opportunity to find some compromise, to find some common ground. There was a lot of partisanship in there, but the interests of Canadians were put to the side. Liberals rank and file joined with eliminating the possibility of Ms. Wilson-Raybould testifying in front of the committee, and also limited the list to people who have already said, like the current Attorney General, that there's nothing to see here. That is not an investigation. That is just simply going through the motions. Some small, faint hope remains, but it's very small, having watched them batten down the hatches today and just not allow any truth to come to light. It took 2.5 hours for them to get to that eventual conclusion.
Do you think that committee members today, were they directed by the PMO to vote this way, do you think?
Well, we had the Attorney General go public this weekend and say he doesn't believe that there's any investigation needed here. He thinks everything is fine. And we heard Liberals today simply take the Prime Minister's word without actually realizing that the Prime Minister's own word was undermined within 24 hours. He claimed that there was nothing to see, and Ms. Wilson-Raybould stayed in Cabinet. That was all the proof we needed. The next morning, she was out of Cabinet by her own volition. So I don't know how they can continue to just blindly believe whatever Justin Trudeau says, when Justin Trudeau has repeatedly not told us the entire story here. People get frustrated because it looks like there's two sets of rules. Well-connected companies are able to lobby government and get what they want, where average or ordinary Canadians have to face the law in a very different way, and that was continued again.
Are there any other routes you could still take to get answers on this beyond the committee investigation, or is this committee investigation?
Well, let's see the committee meet Tuesday and see if they can actually recover from this. But I think that was a very disappointing display by my Liberal colleagues, who kept claiming there was no partisanship and then did exactly what the Prime Minister's office would have wanted them to do every step of the way.
And I'll leave him there. So he's saying very clearly that a very, very thin glimmer of hope remains for transparency and for us to see what's actually happened, because the Liberals are closing ranks and doing what the Prime Minister has asked. And he said, he made some good points. He said it looks like there's two sets of rules, one for rich companies who can afford to have the ear of the Prime Minister, and then have the Prime Minister, pressure the Attorney General. And if she doesn't play ball, replace her, right? So it does look like there's two sets of rules. And if you're not sure what rule of law means, that's the phrase that the Liberals and Justin Trudeau have been throwing around a lot. Rule of law means one law across the land to rule everyone, right? Like, it's not a separate set of laws for cronies and insiders and then another set for the working class. That's a dictatorship. That's a third world style of ruling, right? And, well, look at where we are. Rule of law is espoused as the absolute top priority, but when given the opportunity to prove that everybody is subject to the same laws, Liberals close ranks and say nothing to see here. The Prime Minister said clearly that everything was fine and that Miss Raybould remained in cabinet, and that spoke for itself, right? Everything was fine. Oh, right, except Miss Raybould left cabinet less than, 2 hours after he made that statement. So I read commentary on this, that the Liberals had a chance to seize control of this, right? Take the narrative, be able to say, okay, and what they're doing is they're using the majority in the committee to work in camera. So they're going to take their Liberal majority and they're going to make decisions, and then they're going to bring those decisions back to the committee, and that means privately, right? Like, they're not going to share that with the rest of the committee, and they'll say these people can talk and these people are going to basically say the Prime Minister is right. And that's that's going to be the width and breadth of this investigation, and that's it. And we're not going to hear from Miss Raybould, we're not going to hear from the PMO, we're not going to hear from the Privy Council office, we're not going to hear from any of those people. None of it, because we're in charge of the committee. But you know who they're not in charge of? And maybe Justin Trudeau doesn't need to worry about this. Maybe this isn't a concern for them. But they're not in charge of law enforcement, right? So once this becomes a law enforcement thing, or if this ever becomes a law enforcement thing, if this gets out, if this gets leaked, if this gets changed in a way that they lose control of the narrative 100%, because right now this is all buttoned up, right? No Liberals cross the floor. Nobody gets out of lockstep, and they'll goose march into October with a united front, right? Don't let those alt-right people in, I guess. I don't know. Mr. Trudeau's terrible. And the dictatorship of China that he admired so much is being, replicated pretty well here, from the internet censorship and the trolls to Mr. Trudeau's conduct himself. Next he'll be declaring himself Prime Minister for life. Can't wait. Here's a news article from the CBC that is highlighting what Mr. Cullen just told us. Basically, the Justice Committee is going to back everything Trudeau says without any kind of investigation whatsoever, because, why not? Link is in the description for you to read for yourself. We spent 3 minutes on it, so I'm not going to rehash it. Here is Liberal MP Randy Bissonnette. Sorry if I've got your name wrong, sir. It says, former Minister Wilson Raybould can speak to the public anytime. But then he goes on to add, it doesn't need to be something that happens here at the Justice Committee. Like, yeah, go ahead and talk. But, you make sure that you don't say anything. Here it is.
I think in simple terms, please. Simple terms is former Minister Wilson Raybould is able to speak at any time to the Canadian public. What we're interested in doing is taking a look at the issues that surround what is preoccupying Canadians right now. And I think Canadians understand, too, that when you've been a minister and you move on to another file, you actually can't talk about what you used to do in your previous minister's role, and she is bound by solicitor-client privilege. And so I think it's important for Miss Wilson Raybould to speak to Canadians on her own terms. It doesn't need to be something that we do here at the Justice Committee. Merci tout le monde. Thank you.
Ms. Raybould, please speak to Canadians and defuse this bomb that you have dropped into the Liberal caucus. Thank you. And it doesn't need to be something we do here at the Justice Department, because you know what we want you to say. Please say it. Please say it now. Please say it yesterday, actually. Yes. Thank you. No questions. Right? This is thuggery. This is thuggery. And this is incredible to be watching in 2019 Canada. Here's Brian Lilly, and I don't have video of this. I wish I did. I apologize. I was looking on Cpac for it, and again, just ran out of time if I wanted to get a video out tonight before midnight, which I do. So Brian Lilly says, quote, Liberal MP, I am Iqra Khalid, has called the attempt to get to the bottom of the Wilson-Raybould affair as making hay out of nothing. She also claims it is not the role of the Justice Committee to examine allegations of obstruction of justice by the Prime Minister's office. No, who should do that? CSIS? Or should we have a citizen's arrest him? Should we just do a citizen's arrest? How do you do that? Do you just yell out citizen's arrest? Citizen's arrest! I don't think that'll work. I think somebody might have something to say about that. The security officers, and I'm using air quotes when I say that, who roughed up the grandmother in Quebec for having the nerve to ask about how much the illegal border crossers cost, and was then told she was racist. You know, that was an example of what happens when you get out of line in Canada. They'll send their goons after you. Here's the last little bit of the story here. Two more. David Lametti is the new Attorney General, the new Justice Minister who took over for Miss Wilson-Raybould. And I'd had a couple of people say, isn't it interesting where his riding is? And his riding is LaSalle, Verdun, and Imard. Sorry if I've got that wrong. And here's the Wikipedia, and I wanted to look it up, right? And what do my wondering eyes do see is SNC Lavalin right in Mr. Lametti's riding? So the Attorney General has this big company who he gets to decide, and he gets to decide whether they get to continue to bid on government contracts for the next 10 years or not, and they're in his riding? Westmount, right here, right? This is Montreal, SNC Lavalin, and Westmount. Mr. David Lametti, right? Same guy. LaSalle, this is the riding, and Westmount is included, and oh, you betcha, SNC Lavalin. These are all the locations, and it's right there. Lots and lots of SNC Lavalin. So he's put in the position of taking over this politically fraught, because of the Prime Minister, because of what Justin Trudeau did. He's taking over this file with this inherent conflict of interest. Is that smart? Is that a good idea? Wow. So when Justin Trudeau loses control of the narrative, and it's going to come out, make no mistake about this, it's going to come out. When he loses control of the narrative, all of these bombs are going to go off. Or I can't imagine getting to October without some kind of political earthquake between now and then. I can't imagine it's going to be a smooth ride between here and the election in October. I don't think we're going to make it. I don't know. This is a huge scandal, and this is more conflict of interest on top of conflict of interest for the Attorney General, who has to make this decision. How does he not recuse? I don't understand. Maybe I don't know enough about law, but this looks like another conflict of interest to me. It looks like a decision. If I was the MP in that riding and somebody said to me, hey, see this really fraught legal decision that you've got to make? Have fun. I would say I wouldn't want to make that decision. I would say I can't make that decision. I would say I'm conflicted. And I would be, right? Your neighbors, now their jobs are in your hand, and you know that it's legally, sneaky. They just brought in the changes, and they didn't even bring in the changes in a way that we being the House of Commons, could meaningfully debate the changes. They just snuck it into the budgetary, into C-74. Snuck it in. It's incredible. And even some Liberals are disgusted by their government. Here's Wayne Long from, where is he? New Brunswick, I believe. Yes, St. John, New Brunswick. So here he says, quote, I'm always going to stand up for you, St. John's SJR. Leadership can be challenging and uncomfortable at times. I won't be silent on issues I feel it's important to stand up on. I'm a proud Liberal. As your elected federal representative, I will always do what's right. And I'm going to let you hear it.
St. John Rossi coming here from Tampa, Florida. I want to thank everybody for their love and support over the last couple of days. One thing you're always going to get from me is a member of parliament that represents his riding, represents his constituents first. I'm going to be your representative in Ottawa, not Ottawa's representative in the riding. I'm going to stand up, I'm going to say what I think, and I'm always going to do what's right. So peace out, enjoy the rest of the week. I've got your back, I know you got my back. Love you all, and we'll see you back home soon.
So there's one Liberal who's saying that he may not be on board with what's going on, maybe wanted to cross the floor. My friends and I have been doing some back of the napkin math, actually he was, and he said 12 seats, 12 need to cross the floor if everybody else works together to bring the government down. 12 need to come across the floor. So interesting. And here's the last one. Mark Eyking is leaving after serving for the last 19 years. He is not going to run again. So that's another Liberal incumbent saying, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And that's happening for NDP as well. Yeah, I don't think this really represents me anymore, and I'm not going to continue. So this is the whole letter. I'm not going to read it. Link is in the description, as this video is long enough as it is. But Liberals are jumping ship. There are some Liberals seemingly with integrity who are saying, I'm not on board for this, and I'm going to not be silent about not being on board for this. And some liberals are falling in line and towing the party line and doing what their crooked prime minister expects them to do. And, well, I would encourage those Liberals to think twice. The Emperor's not wearing any clothes. And us Canadians, we can see it. We could see it for a while. So get with the program, guys. Cross the floor. Bring this government down. This criminal, awful, awful government. Bring it down. As soon as possible. Bring it down. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca. If we do make it to October, I would love for Maxime Bernier to have a bunch of seats and for the Liberals to have none, because they don't deserve any. Thanks for watching anyway. Everybody, have a good night.